President, I thank you for the opportunity to brief the Council on the 11th report of the Secretary General on the threat posed by ISIL and the continued efforts of the United Nations and Member States to counter the threat. Would also like to thank Yoshi Voronkov for his overview of the report and to commend both UNOCT and the Analytical and Sanctions monitoring team of ISIL and Al-Qaida Sanctions Committee led by Ms. Fitton Brown for their invaluable contributions to the report. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic is one of the greatest challenges faced by the United Nations in the 70 years of its history. The resulting period of global uncertainty has exposed existing economic fault lines and social instabilities, and its impact has also been felt across the global security apparatus. As we have heard, the rapidly evolving and deeply uncertain nature of the pandemic makes it difficult to assess its overall impact of ISIL's activities. The dire situation faced by thousands of ISIL-associated women and children in the detention camps of northeastern Syria remains a major challenge for the international community. The COVID-19 pandemic risks exacerbating an already untenable humanitarian, human rights, and security situation. Indefinite detention is legally unjustifiable and has significant security and moral implications. The detained children remain the most vulnerable group. Every additional day that they spend in the camp will increase the risk that they will suffer irreparable psychological damage. Last month, CEDAT published an analytical brief on the prosecution of ISIL-associated women, highlighting the gender-specific challenges encountered by states in the investigation, prosecution, rehabilitation, and reintegration of women returnees. Women remain the group with the lowest rate of return from the conflict zone. We can't allow these women to become the forgotten demographics. There is an urgent need to institutionalize comprehensive, tailored, and gender-sensitive PRR strategies and to provide states with the required technical assistance. There have been signs of progress. Some states have repatriated their citizens despite the additional challenges posed by COVID-19. Some states are also making progress in prosecuting ISIL returnees for terrorist-related offenses, sometimes together with war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. This may help provide justice to the victims of ISIL. States should continue to improve the collection and sharing of admissible terrorism-related information and evidence by the military in compliance with international human rights law and international humanitarian law. And CEDAT is working in partnership with UNODC and UNOCT under the Global PRR Initiative to explore approaches to rehabilitation and reintegration in various settings. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, pandemic-related restrictions, including social isolation measures, curtailed religious and cultural activities, and lack of employment opportunities may aggravate existing grievances, particularly in societies facing endemic conflicts. And with people spending more time online, ISIL and its affiliates are taking the opportunity to accelerate the spread of their toxic propaganda via digital platforms, including gaming platforms. And member states must ensure that policies adopted to curtail the spread of terrorist narratives and misinformation are human rights compliant and gender sensitive. A whole of society approach based on consultation with relevant stakeholders, including civil society organizations, academia, think tanks, religious actors, and community leaders is more crucial than ever. Within the framework of the Global Counter-Terrorism Coordination Compact, CEDAT continues to engage with states, including in partnership with the government of Iraq, on the development of comprehensive and integrated counterterrorism strategies that engage a wide range of stakeholders. States should introduce innovative and practical counterterrorism measures, strengthen existing partnerships, and ensure that victims' rights are respected. I welcome the adoption in March this year of the Interfaith Statement on Victims of ISIL by the leadership of religious authorities in Iraq, which aims to secure justice and accountability and protect the rights of victims and survivors of ISIL. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, despite its significant loss of territory, ISIL continues to pose a threat, not only in the Middle East, but also in the newer battlegrounds of Southeast Asia, the Lake Chad Basin, and the Sahel. And we're closely following the current political crisis in Mali and hoping for the restoration of the rule of law in order for this country to continue its fight against the rise of the terrorist threat. Our response to the enduring transnational challenge must be a multilateral one, rooted in enhanced information sharing and international cooperation. CTAD has innovated its working methods in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and maintained business continuity despite the challenging circumstances. Acting on behalf of the Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee, we have enhanced our desk-based stock-taking of member states' activities and assisted the committee to adopt an updated country-visit framework, as well as the annual list of briefings and meetings for the committee and this wider membership. Under the UN Countering Terrorist Travel Programme, CTAD and its partners have conducted virtual deep dive missions for Botswana and Côte d'Ivoire and developed API PNR implementation roadmaps for both states. CTAD also led a virtual deep dive mission for Botswana with its partners on enhancing the capacity to counter terrorism using national level interagency coordination mechanisms, so-called fusion cells. CTAD and UNOCT have held joint consultations with member states and experts on the use of biometric technologies for pandemic-related measures aimed at ensuring their compliance with international human rights law. We have deepened our engagement with our partners on the ground, particularly the UN resident coordinators and country teams in assessed member states. This has helped us integrate local, national and regional developments into our analyses of key trends and our facilitation of delivery of technical assistance, which will in turn translate into more effective and impactful counterterrorism and CVE outcomes. We continue to have our insights through our regular stream of publications, including our recent analyses of the potential short and long-term impacts of COVID-19 on terrorism and counterterrorism. In June, pursuant to Security Council Resolution 2462, CTAD and the monitoring team produced a joint report on countering terrorism financing based on responses from 112 member states. The report was followed by a close briefing of the Council. In July, we conducted a virtual global consultation with over 15 civil society organizations on counter-financing of terrorism and the implications for human rights in accordance with that Resolution 2462. CTAD is committed to continue dialogue with civil society on issues related to counterterrorism and countering violent extremism within a human rights compliant and gender-sensitive framework. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic will undoubtedly make our already complex task even more difficult. But the pandemic has also given us an opportunity to question the status quo. We should continue to use this opportunity to review and strengthen our counterterrorism and CVE approaches. We must collectively uphold our shared principles of a rule of law-based international order and develop human rights compliant and gender-sensitive policies, practices, and whole of society approaches. Our determination to ensure justice, equality, and human dignity must continue to be the cornerstone of a multilateral counterterrorism effort. I do thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Michèle